It's a little scary. So I think that we need to reevaluate how we are talking to our sellers about pricing, how we are coming up with strategies to price a home and having conversations again about price reductions. Right? We haven't done that in a couple years. I know I'm a little rusty. So I wanted to kind of see if we could get some insight on what your strategies are for pricing of property, how you're talking to your sellers. Where do you try and come in at, do you always kind of try and be at the high end, the low end, the middle? Is it different with everybody? Talk to us about what your strategies are that you feel like work. You want to start, Marty?
Sure. Yeah. So I think the last 2 years, with this insanity of a market, I basically try and persuade sellers that sort of the language that I use in most cases is that it's a bit counterintuitive, but the way to get the best possible price is to price the house as competitively as possible and let the market establish the right price. And obviously there's a number of advantages to that. Most importantly being that if you price it right and you market it aggressively the way it should be, the hope would be that you get multiple offers in a short period of time, and buyers waive virtually all contingencies. It doesn't necessarily always work. And I, recently lost a listing because I gave the seller, it was a difficult house as far as my perception was that it was stucco, very contemporary, decorated like over the top. And I knew that that was going to have an impact on the price. And I gave them a number that I thought was pretty like a high from where I really thought it would be. And they went with an agent that gave them a higher number. And that's, that is also a risk, and it's under agreement right now. And I think from my own personal perspective, I still think at the end of the day, although the seller probably won't recognize this, I think that my strategy would have been more effective because I think it would have been more likely that they would get an offer with a waived inspection. And it's an old stucco house that who knows what they're going to find. And I know this neighborhood has had significant stucco issues. But again, in having the conversation, if the seller is really driven by who's going to give you the highest number and you're there, basically trying to tell the seller what they want to hear, I mean, there's a risk that you're going to lose the listing. And in this market, that's probably not the best strategy because it seems as though almost regardless of where you price it, it sells. So I think the conversation with price reductions, and I went out on another listing yesterday, which I am going to get, and the conversation about price reductions has changed from what I would have had, a number of years ago, where you might say we're going to give, the house, whatever, 3 weeks to determine whether the price is right, and I set the expectation. We want like a lot of activity, second showings, positive feedback. And in which case I would say, we're on the right track, but if we don't get activity and that doesn't happen, in a few weeks, we're going to lower the price. Now I'm telling people, like, if we put your house on the market Friday, we don't have an offer Monday, the price is too high. And so, that's basically is the conversation.
Do you think going into the market that we're starting to see, you still have that, 3-day window?
So I talk to agents through a couple of network groups that I'm involved with from, literally all over the country. And I'm sure we've all experienced the same thing. Like there are markets that have shifted already. Like it's not a repeat of 2008 by any, and I don't think we're going to have that. But there are markets where, it's much, much more balanced than it is here. Personally, I haven't seen a huge change yet. I mean, I'm seeing more price reductions in general in our market, but I still see things that are selling, at insane prices, still with multiple offers. And even if it's not, 15 offers, it's 6, but I think that the change is coming. I don't think there's any question, like this area is not, totally insulated from the rest of the country and world. So I think that, and we are seeing an increase in inventory, just, numerically speaking. So I think it's inevitable that, bless you, that it is going to happen. And I'm like, especially now having conversations like literally today very time specific with people, saying like, if your house was ready to go on the market today, I can pretty well sense what's gonna happen. If you wait and, you know, the people I spoke with yesterday are probably 3 weeks away from having a house, I don't know what's gonna happen in 3 weeks. Because it may make a pretty significant difference, and you know, which I think a lot of us do also, try and set the expectation for the possibility of a price reduction up front, so that it doesn't come as a surprise. So as I said before, it's like, these are my expectations. I know how to market houses, like basically there's more or less not a strategy to expose a house to the market that I don't use. So if all these strategies, you know, are effective for everybody else, like the only thing left, if your house doesn't sell, is, you know, condition and or price. And so, you know, as I said before, in the current market, it's like a 3-day window. That may change. I mean, maybe we'll have to start talking about, God forbid, 2 weeks instead of 3 days.
Normalcy.
Yeah, even that's not.
Are you seeing the same thing, Jay?
We've gone from, you know, the $100,000 over the full contingencies to, you know, what should we put it, what should we do to that? I don't see that happening anymore at this point. I don't see that happening. When you try to list the house or get the right price, I mean, forget about the market right now. The normal way of doing it is you speak to the seller, you know, try to get it ahead of time. You know, what do you think, guys? Right? Well, that's a good place to start, right? Before we start getting into these
Sure.
nuances and the weeds of this market. You know, try to find that out first. You know, look at what they're looking at. You know, the Zillows, the Realtor.com, the RPR from Bright, and get an idea. The normal things. You know, look at their neighborhood, what's sold, and what we've been telling people. You know, in this market that we think they're shifting from is, you know, oh, here's the comps, you know, in this market, like it's meaningless. It's meaningless with those comps were, even last month, meaningless. But now, you know, we're looking at this and saying, well, you know, things are kind of, I think, slowing down. We just put up a listing, there's like 12 showings in a couple of days. A month ago, there might have been 30 in 2 days. So that tells us.
And you might have had a blind offer.
And we, that's right, we may have had an offer. So you still have to list it, you know, listen to the price of this seller. And then use your knowledge. And, you know, I always tell people it's an art, not a science of pricing the house. You know, there's a range, you know, what does your house compare to the other houses that sold? You know, here's the photos. You know, you tell me how you think your house compares. You know, get them, you know, for some buying. But on this market, you know, especially in a neighborhood where there hasn't been anything sold in a couple of years, that's always the hardest. So, I don't know what the house was worth. Then you gotta go outside the neighborhood and see what comps are and the footage and the number of rooms. So it's, you know, get an idea of what they want. Look at the market, what you've seen, and what Zillow's, not that Zillow's the answer, but you know, they're looking at it. You have to be prepared to respond to
Would,
what those numbers are.
would you consider taking what you would view as an overpriced listing right now?
Yeah, I would. And with the discussion that if we don't get an offer, or if we don't have, you know, 10 showings in 2 days, we're overpriced. If we don't get an offer in a week, we're overpriced. And know that we're gonna have that discussion about.
Eileen, I know you've had a different experience
But
lately.
the last thing, I'm sorry,
Oh,
the
I
last
didn't mean to
thing
cut
I
you
do
off.
is, once I come up with this number, then I consult the magic 8 ball.
You should have started with that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, this past year, it's been a slam dunk on everything. You know, you price it, the market elevates the price, and it's gone in 2 days, multiple offers. And now I listed a house in Philadelphia, and I'm stunned that there's been one showing. I did an open house Saturday and Sunday. Saturday I had 2 people, Sunday I had 5. And there's been one showing since Saturday.
One scheduled showing.
One
after-
Yeah, right, one, and
That's scary.
And Zillow said it and then if somebody can make an offer or, and, what is something like that? So,
Now, and how long has it been on the market?
since Saturday.
Okay, so not quite a week, and you feel like you're already at the point of talking about reduction.
With no showings at all, I don't see another way now. Yeah, and they're ready to go, they're ready to reduce it. They just want it sold. So, they're already bought. It's sold.
I think the interest rate has made a big difference in those buyers that were maybe on the edge, and now they're disappearing. So I'm gonna really, they're gonna wait it out because of all the multiple offers and don't wanna do it anymore. Now they're gonna wait it out because they can't afford to pay.
So don't you think all those people that want to wait it out because they don't want bidding wars, don't you think that they have this idea that if a home's priced, at where they feel like is the top, they're not even gonna bother. They're not even gonna look at it because they can't compete.
Yeah, especially if they've lost before.
So at what point do we kind of get ahead of that and say, let's price it a little lower, let the market elevate it? Or do you think we're not there? I know you're seeing something different.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the hardest part, if the seller thinks that their house is worth, that ideally, the strength of what we bring to the table is if you can get the seller to like totally trust you.
Right,
So they don't question, that's a lot of advanced work, so they don't question the strategy so much, but if you have a seller that thinks their house is worth 600, like they're hoping to get 600, and you say, let's price it at, whatever, 585, because we're gonna end up with multiple offers and we're gonna get 630. If they trust you and they have confidence in you, that's an easy sell, but if they don't, that becomes a huge objection to try and get over, because most sellers don't understand the market and they want to ask as high as it's physically possible, which, in any market is not a good strategy.
so how are we gonna talk to sellers now that still think they're gonna be seeing multiple offers, that still think that there's gonna be this mass competition, because that's what they've been in. They've been out looking for a house, like yours that bought a house, and now they're selling theirs, and now they're not seeing it on the other side. How do we prepare our sellers without talking them out of selling their
We
house?
saw the shift coming, we saw it coming, but I think it's in certain areas first.
Right,
So I don't know if we'll see this as much in Northampton or, but there are areas that are being hit right now.
They're
Yeah, yeah.
they've been reading the news anyway,
mm-hmm,
and, this is wonderful, multiple offers, getting so much more, but look, now you gotta show them those articles that say, things are changing a little bit. So it's not me telling you this is industry and all the talking heads, that know about what's happening.
And you can usually, sort of create a statistical overview that documents exactly what we're talking about. I mean, you can show, absolute, verifiable, documentable, information that can be documented. How many listings are on the market today compared with, a month ago? How many listings, have had price reductions, which is more now than there were, at any
Last
point in
few
the
years.
last couple of years. I mean, that's, legitimate information, and it is a tough sell because, again, people, they talk to their neighbors and, oh, my neighbor got, 15 offers. Their house sold for $80,000 over the asking price. But, again, real estate, is and always has been cyclical. And what your neighbor sold for, a month ago is, as Jay said, it's like really irrelevant at this point. It's a frame of reference, but then the question is, what's it worth in today's market?
I'm sure we have some questions you guys want to ask.
What would your strategy be? I have like a couple sellers that for some reason or other have said, they're going to talk to me. How do you still say that, convince them that it's still a good time to sell?
Why are they selling?
Well, one of them wants to take advantage of the market, so they just bought a place, but they have another place, they're thinking of selling that place and buying another place. So, I mean, I still think it's a good time for them to sell.
It has to be a good time to sell now, because you don't know know what's gonna happen in 2 weeks or a month or a year.
And
This could be the best time. And it's the best time because
we don't know the future.
we don't know the future, and if we're ready to sell, we're ready to sell. And if they're not, then they're not. So we're not the headaches to all.
But, you know, I like Kristen towards wanting to sell. I mean, I know I can make some sell.
The reality is that people move to solve a problem. And this, you know, for the most part, it's not fun. I mean, buying can be fun, but even in this market, it's not fun. And I think that, you know, if you're honest with people, I mean, if they're hesitant, like if they're committed to selling, but they're hesitant, you know, and there's a time element involved, I think you can respectfully like give them options to say, like, we know that if your house goes on the market today, it's a captive market. Like we feel, and you know, again, this can be documented, that we're in a shift in the market. And you can't predict the future, but it's likely that if they wait 3 weeks, it could impact their net return on the house. It may be okay, like if they're for whatever reason, if they're in a situation where it's just more comfortable for them to do it in 3 weeks than today, as long as they understand what the risk is, because you don't know what the market's gonna be like in 3 weeks. I mean, I have to, like, we're, as much as we'd all like to, we can't force somebody, you know, it's just because they're gonna move at their own, you know, sort of pace and time, and as long as they, you know, trust you and you're honest with them, you know, they have to make that decision based on, you know, the timing that's, you know, that's comfortable for them, and so, and I think that's very realistic that, you know, as we get, you know, through June and into July, I mean, if there is a so-called spring market anymore, and I'm not even sure that exists, at least as of the last couple of years, because it doesn't really seem to matter. You know, by the time you get into July, for people to want to move for school, I mean, it's already at the tail end of that season. So, I mean, it's a legitimate concern if, you know, if somebody is only looking at the highest possible net bottom line dollar, they're probably better off like getting the house on the market proactively than waiting 3 weeks. But, you know, for whatever reason, that just might not be what they're comfortable with.
You think a lot of the buyers have fallen out of the market? Or do you think it's back up?
No, I still think in this market, I don't think the backlog is as big as it was a month ago or 6 weeks or whatever, but still buyers. There's buyers, and you know, again, I mean, if you look at Brighton, like there's still a lot of houses that, you know, that go under agreement in 2, 3, 4 days. I mean, it's not statistically, I think I mean, it seems like, you know, if you go back 2 months ago, it was like 100, when almost anything you put on the market was gone in 3 days. And then, you know, so now it's not 100%, but there's an awful lot. And there's still some multiple offers. So again, it might not be 15, but maybe it's 3, you know. So,
You only need one.
you know,
That's right.
the change is coming.
How do you explain to your clients, how even though there's gonna be a shift in the market, you know, it's still better to buy or sell now based on what the interest rate is gonna be projected to be?
Basically what we were saying, it's the best time to plant a tree is today, right? So if they want to sell or buy, they sell or buy. If interest rates, if they can afford or not afford it, then, you know, that speaks to their pocketbook, and there's nothing you can do about that. But, you know, if they're looking, again, it comes down to motivation, you know, if they really need to move or buy a house, bigger house, or a job change, or whatever the reason is, you know, that's it. You can't force them. You know.
And they know.
I've tried.
They wouldn't.
You call the police on it.
I said, people move to solve a problem. So like when the problem they're trying to solve becomes, you know, like really unmanageable, the interest rate, prices, all those things they'll figure out a way to make that all work. And again, if you go back to sort of, you know, a statistical overview, like there's all kinds of, you know, statistics that you can, which may or may not resonate with people, but, you know, statistics that you can use that show that like there's a national shortage of houses. And you know, like your real estate is always hyper local, but if you just look at the big picture, you know, this goes back to 2008, builders stop building, and it takes years and years to, develop and build and whatever. And we still haven't anywhere nearly caught up with, just the amount of houses, like Princeton, I think it was Princeton passed a rule where you can put like 2 houses on a single lot to try to, address the,
The shortage.
shortage of houses. There's some other communities in California that have done the same thing, like there aren't enough houses, and that's not gonna change. So,
Eileen, what would you say to somebody that's like, I still wanna find a house before I sell my house? What would be your conversation with them right
Pretty
now?
much what we're saying right there. Nobody knows what the market's gonna be like. I understand you don't wanna be homeless. And if that's what your decision is, then we can move forward and everybody's on the same page.
It also depends if they could afford, to have a mortgage on a current house, right? And if they could still get a mortgage from the second house,
Assuming, I was
on the
assuming.
new house. Right, and that's always the first question, what's your pre-qual set? And if you can, then go ahead and just pay it off when you sell your house. I've done my job.
Any other questions, you guys? Anything you're seeing that you feel like you're stuck? Yeah. Seeing 2% commission on Bright, yeah,
drives me
You're
crazy.
right, you're right, I've noticed that too, and I think that comes from probably a lot of sellers in this market, selling for sale by owners, and by their friends, or help you sell, morons, that do that, so there is pressure on that. So when people come to us and say, take the deal, whatever, but I think as the market shifts, and the houses don't sell as easily, it's gonna come back to us. And we'll do the right thing.
I have to say, like, I don't mean this at all, in a way that would demean any agent, who's out there trying to run their business however they want to run their business. I personally, and I guess, I can't believe I'm that old and I've been doing this for 25 years. I've never offered a 2% co-op, and I never will. So and I've only done a 4% commission when, like, literally, I think maybe 3 times in the 25 years that I've been doing this. And at least 2 of the 3 was because somebody legitimately needed financial help. And even when I did do that, I offered 2.5 and kept 1.5. I think, again, this is my own personal perspective, but it says something in my mind about the agent, if they're offering a 2% co-op. And as far as I'm
And they're
concerned,
taking
it disrespects, well, that's a whole other
We don't know.
conversation, but it
You don't know.
disrespects, and again, this is just my own personal perspective. It disrespects all of us and how hard we work, and so,
in the
Yeah.
profession.
and the profession. So, if I am stuck, doing 4% to be competitive, I would still offer 2.5. I would never offer 2. I just wouldn't.
Thank you. Go ahead, Rich.
Can you guys talk about how you specifically go about pricing? Like, example, you get comps, and with the market that we were just in, you would see, let's say it was a house that was listed at 375, the comps were, they were selling at 425. Now that we're shifting a little bit, where are you telling new listings the price the house? Are you going somewhere in the middle, thinking that it still might come up some, or are you going right to the last sold comp at 425? Like, what's your strategy?
I think it's, again, speaking to the seller, being and putting the groundwork that is shifting. So I don't think we're gonna get back to somewhere in the middle. Because that's where they're gonna wanna be, they're not gonna wanna go back. Towards the top, because, we're not 100% out of this. It's not back to where we were, so it's.
Yeah, some agents will go to the last comp, some will go a little more aggressive.
Depends on the
More
house.
activity.
It depends what the house looks like, all those other things that come into play, so the kitchen, and backyard, and,
Right.
so, that's where we kind of.
I think Marty used a really good, a word I use a lot when I'm talking to sellers is it's counterintuitive to price a little lower than you think you're gonna get. Because the market will naturally bring it up. If you're going to get multiple offers, or you're going to have competition, it'll draw more buyers into your properties.
And along the same thought though, with the seller saying, if that's the case, then the market will also be lower offers, price it up here. But if I price it down here, then, you know, I won't get this.
So what
But
do
here
you,
I'll come down
is,
here.
what is your response to that? Let's try it.
If they are adamant, then, you know, we have that conversation, we'll bring it down. But I make it very clear that this is where I think we should be. But, you know, you're the captain of the ship. I'm going to counsel you and let's move forward, but know that we're gonna have this conversation.
No. So the question is when to start looking at price reductions.
I'm doing it this week, early week.
So Eileen, and you're waiting till the week mark.
Well, I'll do it before the weekend.
Okay.
I'll probably have this conversation tomorrow. with them.
Okay.
I did an open house last Saturday and another one last Sunday. And
No
no
offers.
offers, and only one showing or showing. Other than the people that came to the open. It's a major message, but it's not going anywhere at the price that it is now, so. And they'll be fine with that, we had that conversation at the listing appointment. So it is what it is, I mean, you can't make somebody buy it, and if it's not selling at the price that it's at now, then it's a lovely house. It's priced.
It's priced right. It's just the market's changing.
Yeah, thank you. You did a good job.
Oh, I'd like to share, just because our team has a listing that has been surprisingly harder to sell than we thought. It's an old farmhouse on its own. It's not in development, but it's been completely rehabbed. It's gorgeous. We priced it at $750, which was not quite the highest that I think that it could have been, but it was up there. And this was 3 weeks ago. So the market, I wasn't seeing the shift quite yet. It's almost like it happened overnight. We listed it and had open houses, had very little traffic, no showings at all for the first week. Took it off the market, readjusted a little bit, the marketing, and reduced it $50,000. Put it back up, no showings. I know. It's in Doylestown. It's, you know, it's Bucks County. It's not like on a side road. It's on kind of a main road, but not a busy road. It doesn't have neighbors. You did an open house there. You had a little bit of traffic. And we've had a couple showings here and there. We have one set, you know, it's scheduled yesterday for Saturday. We have 2 on Sunday. I think it's just gonna be the right buyer, and I think because of where we're at in this market, people aren't willing to even look at it if they feel like it's the top of their price. Because they are not even gonna, they think, oh, I don't even have a chance if I make a lower offer.
I think that's another, you know, changing conversation now, because I think buyers look at a house, because they've been so, it's been so conditioned that the asking price is just a place to start the conversation.
Yeah.
And so I think in some cases, they're actually afraid to make offers that are
Mhm.
less than the asking price. And you may be running into that a little bit, that people that would maybe consider it, if they knew that they could make an offer that's, you know, that's below the asking price, may be reluctant just because of, you know, kind of how they've been conditioned to the market. So, I mean, that's, I think it's all part of the change that we're, you know, that we're gonna go through.
And the fact that now that asking price is starting point is crazy that
Yeah.
we've been in that. And so if I'm gonna offer like 30,000 less, I said, okay, here's, you know, the market, I'm not gonna make that offer, you know, it has to be. And then, well, I think it's fair, okay, I'll offer, ask it. And then he comes back, and that's, are you done? I'm done. Okay, but I gave him asking, I told you, you know, it went for $50,000 more.
Mhm.
Hopefully that's behind us, and
I think we're still seeing some of that though, in homes, Rich and I had this conversation the other day, in homes that are just done. They are, you can just move in, they're updated, they need nothing. Maybe you change some paint colors to your own, but otherwise, you're not redoing kitchens and bathrooms and waiting months for cabinets or trying to get contractors in. People are willing to pay more for those homes.
Yeah, Charlie, just listed a friend of his, you know, on our team, House in Falls, I think it was 387. He had, it's kind of what I was saying before, like, he didn't get 15 offers. He had, I think, 3. The very first one was way over the asking price, like way over the asking price. And so it sold at an
Yeah.
unbelievably great number. Pretty much waived everything. But I think, like, I think that they caught the like very tail end of you know, the shifting market. Like, I'm not even sure in another 2 weeks, the dynamics in that house might have been different, but you know, again, it was great for the seller, but again, I would have expected a month ago or so to get double-digit offers for that house, you know, 400, under 400 in a really nice neighborhood, and the house was completely redone, like, in, you know, the seller had basically redid the whole house, like, it's really nice for, you know, for what it is, and so, yeah, I mean, it's a little surprising that we didn't get more offers, but there were multiple offers.
Did it appraise?
I don't know yet. So that's another interesting conversation. The buyer agreed to make a almost, I mean, a significant number, if there's an appraisal shortfall. So like, it's hard for me to envision that it won't appraise for at least enough to get the transaction done.
Has anybody noticed that? No. Has anybody noticed?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, again, I hope we go back to some sort of normalcy, just the fact that we're telling folks, within, you know, you have to give up, you continue. But to have a house that's, and we have one that is $130,000 more than asking. And it was priced 30,000 above the last house that sold in the neighborhood. When we're in the throes of the market. We got an offer, huh? And they gave up everything and they came.
I don't think we're gonna have a big appraisal issue
I
going
think we're back
forward.
to that. I mean, to where,
Yeah,
don't tell people to give up the trade.
right,
Don't tell people to give up their.
Oh my
home
God,
inspections,
yeah.
right.
Right? When I say don't tell, it's not that I tell them, it's,
But,
this is how you win. I
Yeah.
didn't tell you to do that,
Right.
right?
We all have the same
Right,
conversation.
right.
Yeah.
So we
I
hate
didn't tell
it.
you to do this, but this is how you win a house.
That's a whole other conversation, because I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, I think there have been 4 phone calls from transactions that I was involved with, either on the buyer side or the seller side, or both, from the last 6, 7, 8, 10 months, where people moved into the house, had waived inspections, and now are calling saying, you know, we just had a problem, the air conditioning broke. Can you go through the disclosure again? Because my air conditioning guy said, this is a problem that's been going on for the last 2 years. The seller must have known it. And like, that's
there's no
gonna
reason,
happen.
yeah.
So, it's- what we do whenever there's our buyers have waived inspections, for what it's worth, we buy them a 1-year warranty. Just sit here. Cover us like some way, shape or form. Not that it will mean anything down the road, but we buy a
smart.
on each city, make sure everything's covered. So we hope that doesn't come back and bite us. I mean,
Yeah,
they wait.
right. Thank you. Appreciate the insight.
Our pleasure.
Especially yours.
Okay, We'll be in Philadelphia tomorrow night, and New York on Thursday.
Their treat.
Yeah.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.